guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jess. I'm sorry if you can hear the siren and my annoying ass neighbors who decided to blare music at 2:30 in the afternoon. But today I wanted to do my wrap up. Now I meant to do this last month because it was actually the middle of the year, but honestly, I just didn't have time. I spent all of last month reading, and that was literally all that I did. So as I do this wrap up, I'm actually just going to put the pictures of the books on the screen. I'm pre-filming, and honestly, I'm just super lazy. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is just looking through my Goodreads and giving you like a general synopsis and what I rated the book, and then at the end I will tell you my favorite book so far that I've read, although if you've been paying attention, I have already said which book that's going to be. So the first book that I read is Throne of Glass. Now honestly, I finished this January 7th, but it took me an entire fucking year to read it. After that, I did finish the entire Throne of Glass series up until that point, so we're just gonna go ahead and throw all of the Throne of Glass series in there. I have read every single book from that this year. The next book that I read was Prey by Michael Crichton. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but only because I am a Michael Crichton fan. I was able to get through it. If you do not read Michael Crichton, I would not start with that book. However, I do love his writing style. I love his analytical views on writing and on life in general, and I think that does translate into the books that he writes, so I did really kind of struggle through, but still sort of enjoyed it. The next book that I read was Red Queen, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. I absolutely hate Mare Barrow. I did not like her. Can somebody please explain to me why she's named after a horse and why she is probably the most annoying character I've ever read in a book. The book after that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I did really enjoy that book. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I know I've heard mixed reviews on it, but I did end up giving that book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I actually really love this series. I love this series a little bit more than I love Six of Crows. I gave that book 5 out of 5 stars because I really enjoyed the world. I think now if I went back and read it, I'd be a little less enthusiastic about it, just because I had a discussion with a friend and she kind of pointed out to me like the bastardization of Russia in those books. But when I read them, I did rate the first one 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I tried to trundle through Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell and should have DNF'd it about halfway through, but I did finish it and I didn't enjoy it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. And then I read Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, which I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. And Escape from Asylum by Madeleine Rowe came after that, and I gave that 1 out of 5 stars. I'm probably just going to I'm probably just going to donate that book because I absolutely hated it. And then of course I read Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, which I only gave 4 out of 5 stars because I absolutely hated who Mare ended up with. And if you've been here any amount of time, you know who I'm talking about. And then I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, which as you guys know, I really enjoyed. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but I probably should rate it 4 out of 5 stars only because Mist and Fury came next and I rated that 5 out of 5 stars, and that is a 5 out of 5 star book. I then went on to A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. I had trouble getting into the first one, however I did end up loving the series overall. And then I read Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. I gave that book 3 out of 5 stars, but I did enjoy it. It was not what I was expecting it to be, and I did overall end up really liking it. I liked the story, I liked the characters. It was really fun and fast-paced and just an easy read. I think I read it in about 24 hours. And then I read A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which I also gave 4 out of 5 stars. Now, 4 out of 5 is still really good for me. Like, an awful book would be 1 or 2 stars, but A Gathering of Shadows is my favorite out of the entire series. I know I'm kind of back and forth on that, but the more I think about it, it definitely is. I like the content of that book a lot. A lot of my favorite things that happen overall in the series happened in the third one, which I read right after I finished the second one, which I also gave 4 out of 5 stars, but overall this series was a 4 out of 5 star series for me, with the second one being my favorite. And then I read Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard and gave that 2 out of 5 stars. Why the fuck do I keep reading them? And then I read A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas and gave that 3 out of 5 stars because the ending was stupid. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But overall the book was okay, but it was not what I was expecting, not what I wanted it to be. And then after that I read Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love Syrah. She is my favorite female character in a book ever. I relate to her so much on like a spiritual level, and I just was such a fan of that book, and I know there's controversy surrounding it, but y'all, I can't help it. I loved that book. And then I read Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel, and as you guys know, 5 out of 5 stars, wonderful freaking book. It is about a girl who falls into an iron giant's hand essentially in the middle of the ground, and then when she's an adult she assembles a team to put the robot back together, and everything that can go wrong really does go wrong in that book. And then I read the only Rainbow Rowell novel I've ever liked, and that is Kindred Spirits, and it's literally like 70 some pages long. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was actually really, really wonderful. It's about a girl who's really into Star Wars and camps out for a Star Wars premiere, and it was just perfect. It was beautiful. And I don't know why she can't write like that all the time. Following that, I read Strange a Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I also gave that 5 out of 5 stars. That was definitely a contender for best book I read this year. It is the first Laini Taylor book that I've ever read. I do want to read Daughter of Smoke and Bone, but my god, you guys, Strange a Dreamer was a beautiful book. And then kicking off July, I did read Want by Cindy Pon. I've gushed about that enough on my channel, so I won't go into too much detail. But I did overall end up giving the book 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait for the second one. And then I read Waking Gods by Sylvain Neuvel, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Was not quite as great as the first one, and I don't know if it's because I was just so in love with the first one. It was still very, very good. It is what was building in the first one happens in the second one, and oh my god, I know there's going to be a third one. There has to be. A lot of really sad things happen in this book, but it was still absolutely wonderful. And then I read Roar by Cora Carmack and discovered that there might actually be a female character more annoying than Mare Barrow. I gave that book 3 out of 5 stars. Oh, I take it back. Then I read Winter Song. I'm definitely going to say the main character in that book is way more annoying than Rora or Mare Barrow. I gave the book 2 out of 5 stars. And then I read Odd and the Frost Giants and Sleeper in the Spindle by Neil Gaiman. I read those both the same day. I absolutely love both of them. 5 out of 5 stars all around. Sleeper in the Spindle is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and then Odd and the Frost Giants is just about a boy who meets giants, and there's a little bit of like Norse mythology in there. But it was a really, really good book. And then I read Empress of a Thousand Skies. That book was actually really cool. I didn't know anything about it going into it, and I really, really liked it. Rhi, the main character, was a beautiful main character. I actually really enjoyed her, which, as you guys know, is kind of hard for me to find enjoyable female main characters, but I just really, really liked that book as well. And then I read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo and couldn't be more let down by Instagram hype and booktube hype and just hype in general. I liked the Grisha trilogy more than so far I've liked the Six of Crows duology. I am about to read Crooked Kingdom this month, so maybe it'll redeem it a little bit, but I loved the Grisha trilogy through and through the whole way, so I'm kind of let down by this. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, so. And then I read Snow White, the graphic novel, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It's literally just a retelling of Snow White in, I believe, like the early 1900s in New York, and I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. And then I read all of the Big Trouble in Little China comic books in one day. I read them before, so it was a reread for me. I gave them anywhere from 4 to 5 stars. And then we can't forget that I read The Wrinkle in Time, the Hope Larson edition. It's like a graphic novel that she had did, and I gave that 5 out of 5 stars again because it was also a reread for me. And then I did read a manga this year. I read Dimension W by Yuji Iwahara, I think is his name, and I loved that. I love the anime. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. And then I crushed my own little heart by reading The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. Now, a lot of people have said that they have bought that book because of me, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here, you guys. I loved that book because I am from Alaska. I really related to a lot of the things, like, it was like being home again. But if you're not from Alaska, I think that you'll still really enjoy the book, but you may not love it as much as I did. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, although thinking back on it, I probably could give it 5 out of 5. And then I read Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, and Life Will Never Be the Same. I gave that 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. I have a review coming of that book if it's not already up, but I absolutely loved it. It is a poetry book, and it's just about a bunch of different life experiences that she had and her story with her life experiences, and it's a wonderful book if you haven't read it. Alright guys, so that is all of the books that I've read so far this year as of, I believe today is August 11th. Yeah, August 11th. And I would say out of all of them, my top 3 favorites would be Sleeping Giant by Sylvain Neuvel, Want by Cindy Pon, and then Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Definitely with Illuminae taking like the top because it was just such a wonderful book. I absolutely loved it. If you haven't read it, you should read it, although I imagine at this point everybody probably already has. It is the one book that I've read this year that has actually lived up to the hype. Like, there's so much hype on BookTube and Instagram and things like that. That I've read them and not been super impressed by them, but oh my gosh, that book is amazing. I did buy Gemina. I do have a haul coming with that book in it as well. But I'm hoping it lives up to Illuminae, although I've heard it doesn't, but that's okay because the next one, Obsidio, is coming out soon, so I'm excited for that as well. But I hope you guys are having a good week. That concludes this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!
If I was a question, would you be my answer? If I was the music, would you be the dancer? If I was the student, would you be the teacher? If I was the sinner, would you be the preacher? Would you be my...